Hey guys, it's your favorite Carlos coming at you from Jasper right now. I have a little bit of time here before I got to go back to work and take a train back to Edmonton. So I figured I'd record this quick video. So I wish to show you guys a little bit more of the scenery, but sadly, as you can see, it is very smoky right now from the wildfires. So Frances sent me a message saying how she has a property she's looking to pick up here in the next couple months. But as a long-term rental, the cash flow is going to be very lean on the property. It's not going to cash flow a whole ton. And she's interested in trying short-term rentals to increase that cash flow, but she's a little bit worried about vacancy. That's a real concern. If your property's empty, you're not going to make any money. However, I think it might be a good time to do a video talking a little bit about short-term rentals versus long-term rentals and the differences between them when you really boil it down. So here I'm going to be jumping into this video with that. So when it comes to real estate, it's really actually two businesses you're getting yourself into. The first part is the investment part, and that's the part that everyone kind of focuses on. What you're essentially doing is you're buying a piece of land.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, I'm specifically talking about the land here, not what you put on it, and you'll see why in a second. So in real estate, you buy a piece of land and you hope that it goes up in value, that in the future, it'll be worth more than what you bought it right now. Now, basic real estate is what we call land banking. If you really boil it down, land banking is where you do just that. And you buy it with the intention to hold it for 20 years because you're waiting for the city to grow towards it, or for restrictions to come in that restricts the number of properties people can own in an area or what they can do with it. And that's land banking. Now, the second part of that business is where you take the property and you sell time on that property. So the most basic version, like we talked about with land banking, I sell a farmer time on that property to either farm the land or to get cattle on the land to graze. So at the end of the day, I am able to charge, between $2,000 and like $20,000 a year, depending on what you can grow on the property and how many head of cattle you can have on it. And that's what I get from that property. So that's the most basic level. However, you can then add things to the property to be able to sell that time at a higher and higher premium. And the first and most obvious one is you add a house. Add a house on there, now you can sell a place to live to somebody, so that way you can make more and more money. Likewise as well, you can cut the land up into smaller pieces and add utilities to it. Now you're selling a piece of property with time on it that also has electricity, power, heat provided. And then as you continue to go on, you can get more and more specialized. Like you can add commercial buildings. You can make a big 4,000 square foot warehouse, and then could add an artificial lake there and turn it into a resort. You do things to land to make it more and more valuable to sell the time on that piece of land. From there, you have two choices. Number one, you can either sell it wholesale or you can sell it retail. So if you're selling it wholesale, you're selling it typically in one-year chunks. You're either selling it to somebody to reside in, or you're selling it to a business to be able to operate their business in. There's some other specialized things, like you sell it to the government at the time to operate a healthcare center or something like that. But at the end of the day, you're selling it wholesale. It's easier because once you sell it wholesale, you have very little thing you have to do day to day to deal with it. You mostly just have to deal with issues from the assets you added to the land, but you're also restricted on how much you can charge. You're very much tied to the market on what the premiums are going to be. Your second option is you can sell that time on that land retail. So like in regular business, having a retail store, you sell individual blocks. So in this case, in Airbnbs, you're selling by the night. You're selling people to stay as little as one night, as much as 6 months, but you're selling it at a smaller premium, and all you're doing is you're adding furniture in it, so that way it appeals to them and it increases your marketability. And there's other options and ways to do short-term sales as well. You could do a wedding venue. You can have a beautiful piece of property with a little lake, little cabins or stuff like that, places where people can go to for events. That's another way you can sell at a higher premium. And even within an Airbnb community, there's something called peer space, where you sell time to photography and film studios to use your property on an hourly rate. So that, of course, gets the highest premium. Now, the way you succeed in that one isn't like long-term selling. It's not completely dictated by the market. It's dictated by your ability to market your property. So long-term rentals are dictated strictly by supply and demand. What's available and what's the going rate, and that's it. There's not a lot you can do to really bring up the value of the property unless you start adding more units, which is totally a great strategy. Apartment buildings do this all the time. Short-term rentals are a little bit different. You're on a bell curve instead. So a bell curve, for those who don't know, is that funny little shape that you were graded on at university, where you've got high performers, you've got above average, average, below average, and underperformers. With Airbnbs and short-term rentals, you have four main things that dictate where you end up on this bell curve. The first one, of course, is your location. If you're in the middle of nowhere with nothing around you, because you're in the middle of the desert, unless there's something cool nearby, you're not going to get anybody. Let's be honest. If you're in downtown Los Angeles, you're going to be booked up all the time. You're going to have constantly people coming in and out because that's a poppin' place. The next thing that's really important is your marketing. How good are you at advertising your property? Are you just taking crappy photos on your cell phone? You're just doing IKEA furniture to furnish the place? And that's it? And you're moving on from there? Because if that's what you're doing, you're going to lose to guys like me who get professional photos done, who look for beautiful decor styles, who custom make furniture to make this place really pop. That's something you have to look at and see if it's worth doing. You want to stand out from your competition. Obviously, you don't want to spend like $10,000 on a bed frame, but you do want to spend more than like the $200 lac IKEA bedspread. You want to have something a little bit better than that. Then from there, the next thing is your amenities. What does your property actually have? If you have only 2 bedrooms, you're not going to be able to pull in as much rate as a 4-bedroom house or a 6-bedroom house. Likewise as well, if you have a hot tub, you're going to attract way more people than if you didn't. So those kind of amenities make a big difference for what your property is worth and the value of your property. And then finally, your ability to be a good host. If you're a crappy host and you get constantly negative reviews, you're going to get down boosted in the algorithm. People are going to see your bad reviews. No one's going to want to stay with you. If you're a host who goes the extra mile and above and beyond, you're going to get way more people booking and staying with you and wanting to pay a higher premium because they know they're going to get a good experience with you. So vacancy isn't the same deal as it is with long-term rentals. Long-term rentals, having vacancy, if you're not booked by the first of the month, you're probably not going to get somebody in that month. You're going to have to wait till next month to be able to get somebody, a renter in. And if you're in the middle of like November or December, nobody's going to want to move. You're going to have to wait till the summertime or wait till January when all of the people split up and divorce. So you're restricted on how much you can do to really stand out if you're at a bad time with a long-term rental to be able to sell your place. Likewise as well with short-term rentals, it's different. So with short-term rentals, because you're on a bell curve, people are constantly traveling to places every single day. People are constantly getting new jobs. People are constantly going for schooling every single day of the week. And at the end of the day, when people come, they're going to book the nicest, the highest end of that bell curve property first. That's what's going to happen. They're going to come in and those properties are going to get booked first. Then the less nice properties are going to get booked after that, the above average ones. Then the below average ones are going to get booked after that. And then finally at the end, the crappy ones are going to get the leftovers. So for me and my properties, I have like 90%, 99% in occupancy. I have the high-end occupancy, even in slow season, because people come all year round and they book my properties before they book the crappy ones. Likewise, someone who has a crappy property in summertime might think that they're all that, like that they're doing super duper well because everything is booked and they're having like 85, 90% occupancy. They think they're awesome. But then as soon as slow season comes, their property just crashes and drops and they're all suddenly upset because they only have 40% occupancy. So the big thing there is, making sure that you have a great property, that you market it well, you stand out, you do your search engine optimization, and you're able to have that higher occupancy to the point where you're making profit year round. At the end of the day, travelers are coming every single day. There's nothing you can really do to stop the travelers from coming. Even during lockdowns, we were getting bookings because people still had to travel. However, not everybody got booked. A lot of hosts crashed and burned because they were doing the bare minimum. And so when travel was down 30%, I might have still been occupied, but they aren't. So Francis, at the end of the day, you're going to get occupancy throughout the year that's high and that's low. Typically as well, having high occupancy isn't a good thing. If you have 100% occupancy year round, you're probably not charging as much as you should be. You should be having some vacancy because you're trying to squeeze as much as you can per night out of the property so that way you get the highest premium you can every single night. I mean, like for me personally, if all my weekends are booked 2 months out on one of my properties, I have a feeling I'm not charging enough. Likewise as well, if I have only one weekend booked and it's 3 weeks out, I probably haven't been charging too much. So that's something you get to learn a little bit with your marketing, with the experience. Likewise as well, for example, things happen that suddenly get something shooting up like crazy in terms of what you can charge for rates. For example, when Garth Brooks came to Edmonton, within 2 hours of the tickets going on sale, I had bookings snapping up all my best properties. By that time, I jacked up the price on the properties that were left over, but I missed out jacking up the prices on those properties that were more premium. So it's always a changing market. There's always ups and downs, more people coming, less people coming. So that's something that you're only going to learn with experience and with time. So I hope that answers that question, guys. It's been awesome talking to you, and we'll chat more again later.